Random House Audio presents Railsea by China Miéville. Read for you by Jonathan Cowley. Prologue. This is the story of a blood-stained boy. There he stands, swaying as utterly as any wind-blown sapling. He is quite red. If only that were paint. Around each of his feet the red puddles. His clothes, whatever colour they were once, are now a thickening scarlet. His hair is stiff and drenched. Only his eyes stand out. The white of each almost glows against the gore. Light bulbs in a dark room. He stares with great fervour at nothing. The situation is not as macabre as it sounds. The boy isn't the only bloody person there. He's surrounded by others as red and sodden as he, and they are cheerfully singing. The boy is lost. Nothing has been solved. He thought it might be. He had hoped that this moment might bring clarity. Yet his head is still full of nothing, or he knows not what. We're here too soon. Of course we can start anywhere. That's the beauty of the tangle. That's its very point. But where we do and don't begin has its ramifications, and this right now is not best chosen. Into reverse, let this engine go back. Just before the boy was bloodied, there to pause and go forward again to see how we got here, to red, to music, to chaos, to a big question mark in a young man's head. Part 1. Chapter 1. A meat island? No, back a bit. A looming carcass? Bit more. Here, weeks out, back when it was colder. The last several days spent fruitlessly pootling through rock passes and in the blue shadows of ice cliffs, late afternoon under a flinty sky. The boy, not yet blood-stained, was watching penguins. He stared at little rock islands furred in huddled birds plumping their oily feathers and shuffling together for comfort and warmth. He'd been giving them his attention for hours. When at last there came a sound from the speakers above, it made him start. It was the alarm for which he and the rest of the crew of the Medes had been waiting. A crackling blare. Then from the intercom came the exclamation, "There she blows!" An instant frantic readiness. Mops were abandoned, spanners dropped, letters half-written and carvings half-whittled were thrust into pockets, never mind their wet ink, their sawdusty unfinishedness. To windows, to guardrails, everyone leaned into the whipping air. The crew squinted into the frigid wind, stared past big slate teeth. They swayed with the Medes' motion. Birds gusted nearby in hope, but no one was throwing scraps now. Way off, where perspective made the line of old rails meet, soil seethed. Rocks jostled. The ground violently rearranged. From beneath came a dust-muffled howl. Amid strange landforms and stubs of antique plastic, black earth coned into a sudden hill, and up something clawed. Such a great and dark beast. Soaring from its burrow in a clod cloud and explosion, it came. A monster. It roared, it soared, into the air. It hung a crazy moment at the apex of its leap, as if surveying, as if to draw attention to its very size. Crashed at last back down through the topsoil and disappeared into the below. The moldywarpe had breached. Of all the gapers on the Medes, none gaped harder than Sham. Sham Yes, ap Soorap. Big, lumpy young man. Thick-set, not always unclumsy. His brown hair kept short and out of trouble. Gripping a porthole, penguins forgotten, face like a light, hungry sunflower poking out of the cabin. In the distance the mole was racing through shallow earth, a yard below the surface. Sham watched the buckle in the tundra, his heart clattering like wheels on tracks. No, this was not the first moldywarpe he'd seen. labours, as their playful groups were called, of dog-sized specimens constantly dug in Stregai Bay. The earth between the iron and ties of the harbour was always studded with their mounds and backs. He'd seen pups of bigger species too, miserable in earth tanks, brought back by hunters for stone face mass Eve, baby bottle-top moldywarps and moon panther moldywarps and wriggly tar-foot moldywarps. But the great, really great, the greatest animals, Sham Soorap had seen only in pictures during hunt studies. He had been made to memorize a poem-like list of the moldywarp's other names: underminer, talpa, moldywarpe, mole. Had seen ill-exposed photographs and etchings of the grandest animals. Stick-figure humans were drawn to scale, cowering by the killer, the star-nosed, the rigid moldywarpe. And on the last much-fingered page, a page that concertinaed out to make its point about size, had been a leviathan, dwarfing the speck-like person scribbled by it. The great southern moldywarpe, Talpa ferox rex. That was the ploughing animal ahead. Sham shivered. The ground and rails were grey as the sky. Near the horizon, a nose bigger than him broke earth again. It made its molehill by what for a moment Sham thought a dead tree, then realized was some rust-furred metal strut toppled in long-gone ages, up-poking like the leg of a dead beetle god. Even so deep in the Chillen wastes, there was salvage. Trainspeople hung from the Miéville's caboose, swayed between carriages and from viewing platforms, tamping out footstep urgency over Sham's head. "Yes, yes, yes, Captain." The voice of Sunda Nabi, lookout, blurted from the speakers. Captain must have walkie-talkied a question, and Nabi must have forgotten to switch to private. He broadcast his answer to the train, through chattering teeth and a thick pitman accent. "Big boar, Captain. Lots of meat, fat, fur. Look at the speed on him." The track angled, the Miéville's veered, the wind fed Sham a mouthful of diesely air. He spat into railside scrub. "Eh? Well, it's black, Captain," Nabi said in answer to some unheard query. "Of course. Good dark moldywarpe black." A pause. The whole train seemed embarrassed. Then, right. That was a new voice. Captain Abakat Nafi had patched in. "Attention! Moldywarpe. You've seen it. Breakers, switchers to stations. Harpoonists ready. Stand by to launch carts. Increase speed." The Miéville's accelerated. Sham tried to listen through his feet, as he'd been taught. A shift, he decided, from Shresh Shah to Dragun Dragun. He was learning the clatter names. "How goes treatment?" Sham spun. Dr. Lish Fremlow stared at him from the cabin threshold. Thin, aging, energetic, gnarled as the wind-blown rocks, the doctor watched Sham from beneath a shag of gun-coloured hair. "Oh, stone faces preserve me," Sham thought. "How bleeding long have you been there?" Fremlow eyed a spread of wooden and cloth innards that Sham had lifted from the hollow belly of a mannequin, that he should by now certainly have labelled and replaced, and that were still all over the floor. "I'm doing it, Doctor," Sham said. "I got a little... there was..." He stuffed bits back within the model. "Oh." Fremlow winced at the fresh cut Sham had doodled with his penknife in the model's skin. "What unholy condition are you giving that poor thing, Sham Soorap? I should perhaps intervene." The doctor put up a peremptory finger. Spoke not unkindly in that distinct sonorous voice. "Student life is not scintillating, I know. 2 things you'd best learn. One is to..." Fremlow made a gentle motion. "To calm down. And another is what you can get away with. This is the first great southern of this trip, and that means your first ever. No one, including me, gives a trained monkey's gonads if you're practicing right now." Sham's heart accelerated. "Go," the doctor said. "Just stay out of the way." Sham gasped at the cold.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?